In the summer of 1934, a mother named Della Rourke kept a family of 7 cool and fed through a 100-degree Kansas July with no air conditioner and almost no electric bill at all. Her neighbors wilted. Her children slept easy. She spent pennies where others spent dollars. And she did it with one habit she repeated every single day from June to September. What that habit was, and why it beat every machine we own today, is number 1 on this list. Their summers were hotter than ours, and they had none of our machines. They stayed cool with habits, not central air. Habits so ordinary the women who used them never thought of them as clever. Then the air conditioner arrived and we forgot every one. Della's habits run through everything that follows. Number 17 kept food from spoiling for a nickel a day. Number 9 cooled a whole room using nothing but water and a breeze. And number 1 is the habit that let Della beat the heat for almost nothing. These 25 tricks weren't about suffering the summer. They were about refusing to pay for it. Hit that subscribe button. Let's count them down. Number 25. She shut the sun out before it got in. The heat came through the windows, so she stopped it at the glass. Every morning before the day warmed, she pulled the shades and drew the curtains on the sunny side of the house, keeping the rooms in shadow all afternoon. Up to 30% of a home's unwanted heat comes straight through the windows, and blocking it can save well over $100 a season on cooling. Della's front room stayed dim and cool while the porch outside baked. Not darkness for its own sake. A free wall against the sun hung in every window. Number 24. She hung wet sheets in the doorways. When the air went still and hot, she dampened a sheet and hung it across an open window or doorway. The breeze passing through the wet cloth cooled as the water evaporated, dropping the temperature of the whole room for the price of a bucket of water. It is the same principle behind every cooler ever built. Della's children remembered the strange, welcome chill of walking through a doorway curtained in damp linen on the worst afternoons. Not a gadget, physics and a wet sheet, cooling a room for free. Number 23. She cooked outside or before dawn. The stove was the enemy in July because it heated the whole house and made the cooling that much harder. So she did her baking in the cool dark before sunrise, or she cooked outdoors entirely. A hot oven in summer forces every cooling effort to work harder, which is why the old cooks moved the heat out of the kitchen. Della baked her week's bread at 4 in the morning and never lit the oven again till dusk. Not an inconvenience, keeping the day's biggest heat source out of the house entirely. Number 22. She did the hot chores at the coolest hour. Laundry, canning, ironing, anything that made heat or steam got done early or late, never in the blazing middle of the day. Doing chores that produced moisture and heat during the cool hours keeps the house from turning into an oven. You then have to fight. Della had the wash on the line by 7 and the kitchen closed up by noon. Not laziness in the heat. Timing the hot work for the hours the house could take it. Number 21. She opened the house at night and sealed it at dawn. This was the daily rhythm the whole summer turned on. At night, when the air outside finally cooled, she threw every window open and let the cool pour in. Then, at first light, before the heat returned, she shut the windows and the shades and trapped that coolness inside for the day. The house breathed at night and held its breath by day. Della moved through the rooms at dusk and dawn, opening and closing, like tending a fire in reverse. Not fussing with windows, catching the free cool of the night and hoarding it through the day. Number 20. She lived in the coolest room and closed the rest. She did not try to cool the whole house. She found the coolest room, the north side, the shaded parlor, the cellar on the worst days, and moved the family's daytime life into it, shutting the doors on everywhere else. Conditioning only the space you actually use is the single biggest saving there is. Della's family gathered, sewed, napped, and shelled peas in one cool room, while the rest of the house sat closed and empty, not crowding, refusing to cool rooms with nobody in them. Number 19. She used the ground as her refrigerator. Below the frost line, the earth stays near 54 degrees all year, summer included, and she put that free cold to work. The root cellar dug under the house held vegetables, milk, butter, and eggs, cool through the hottest months, with no ice and no power at all. The earth did the work an electric refrigerator now bills you $30 a month to do. Della's cellar steps led down into a cool that never wavered, July or January. Not a hole in the ground, a refrigerator run entirely on dirt.
Before we go on, I made something special for you. Guides for people like us who still believe the old ways mattered. They're the forgotten money habits our grandparents lived by, tricks that could save you thousands a year. But this knowledge is disappearing, and once it's gone for good. I've put together 2 books for you plus a free bonus. Imagine how much you could save over the next year by starting today. Scan the QR code on screen now or click the link below. I'll wait.
Number 18. She kept a California cooler for the daily things. For what she used every day, she had a ventilated cupboard, slatted shelves with vents to the cool outside air, milk bottles wrapped in a wet cloth so the evaporation kept them cold. It freed up the precious ice for only what truly needed it. Before refrigeration, these evaporative cupboards kept everyday food cool for nothing. Della reached into hers for the morning milk, and it was always cold. Not an appliance, a cupboard that made the outside air do the chilling. Here is what we lost, and it is bigger than any single trick. Della did not experience summer as an emergency to be fought with a machine. She experienced it as a season with a rhythm, and she moved with it, cool in the mornings, still through the shaded afternoons, open to the night. She worked with the heat instead of declaring war on it, and that is the entire difference. We seal ourselves in a box, set a thermostat to 68, and pay whatever it costs to pretend July isn't happening outside. Cooling has jumped 40% since 2020, and now eats up to half the summer electric bill, and still we treat the machine as the only answer. Della had no machine, and she was not miserable. She was in step with the season in a way we traded away the moment we could afford to stop paying attention. Number 17. She made 1 block of ice last. When the Iceman came, she bought the block size to her need, 25, 50, 75, or 100 pounds, marked on a card in the window, and she made it last. The icebox was packed tight, opened fast, and closed faster, because every minute the door hung open was ice melting into money. A nickel's worth of ice, tended right, chilled the food for days. Della's children learned to fetch what they needed in one motion and shut that door. Not stinginess. Guarding a block of ice like the small fortune it was. Number 16. She canned the summer so nothing spoiled or was bought twice. The garden came in faster than a family could eat it, and in the heat it would rot in days. So she canned it, tomatoes, beans, corn, peaches, sealing the summer's cheap abundance into jars for the winter ahead. A jar put up in July cost an afternoon. The same food in January cost real money at the store. Della's shelves filled with glass through August, and she could read the coming winter in how full they stood. Not a chore, buying the season at its cheapest and eating it at its dearest. Number 15. She dried and salted what she couldn't can. What the jars couldn't hold, she preserved the oldest ways, drying fruit and herbs in the sun, salting and smoking meat so it kept without cold at all. Food preserved this way needed no ice and no power through the whole hot season. Della hung drying apples and peppers from the rafters and cured what meat the family had, so none of it was lost to the heat. Not primitive. Keeping food through the hottest months without spending a cent on cold. Number 14. She swapped the heavy cooking for cool meals. In the worst heat, she simply stopped cooking hot food. Cold suppers, bread, cheese, pickled vegetables, a cold bean salad, sliced tomatoes from the garden, fed the family without lighting the stove or heating the house. It saved the fuel, and it saved the cooling, both. Della's July table was cool food eaten in a cool room, and no one missed the hot plate, not going without a proper meal, refusing to heat the whole house to cook one. Number 13. She dressed the family for the weather, not the calendar. Nobody sat sweating in heavy clothes to keep up appearances. Loose, light cotton, bare feet indoors, sleeves rolled, collars open, the body was cooled first, because a cool body needs no cool room. A person dressed for the heat can stand a far warmer house in comfort. Della kept the children in the thinnest cottons she had from June to September, not letting standards slip. Cooling the person, which costs nothing, instead of the air, which costs everything. Number 12. She moved the beds to sleep where it was coolest. On the hottest nights, the family did not suffer in the bedrooms. They slept on the porch, in the yard, on the cool floor downstairs, wherever the night air moved. You sleep where the coolness is instead of paying to carry coolness to where you sleep. Della's children remembered summer nights on the screened porch as the best sleep of the year. The whole family bedded down in the moving air, not roughing it, chasing the free cool of the night instead of buying it. Number 11. She shaded the house from the outside. She fought the sun before it ever reached the glass, using awnings over the windows, vines on a trellis, and trees planted on the sunny side to throw shade across the walls. Shading a house from outside can cut the cooling load by up to 10%, and the shade of a tree can be 9 degrees cooler than the sun beside it. Della's porch vines and her mother's old shade trees kept the west wall in shadow all afternoon. Not landscaping for looks, stopping the heat before it ever touched the house. Number 10. She pumped water from the cool well. The well water came up cold from deep in the earth, and she used it everywhere the heat pressed hardest. A cold cloth on the neck, cold water to drink, jugs of it set in the coolest corner, the crock of butter lowered down the well itself to keep. Free, cold, and endless, straight from the ground. Della sent a child to the well a dozen times a day, and the cold water did half the cooling in that house. Not a luxury. The cheapest cold there is, hauled up a bucket at a time. Number 9. She built a cooler from a crock and a wet towel. For the everyday perishables, she made an evaporative cooler out of almost nothing. A large clay crock, a smaller one inside it, a wet towel draped over the top, set where a breeze could reach it. As the water evaporated, it pulled the heat out, keeping what was inside cool without a scrap of ice or power. Della kept the butter and the milk from turning this way on days the ice ran short, not making do. Turning water and a breeze into a refrigerator that cost nothing to run. Now, go back to the worst summer Della ever faced, because this is where the whole rhythm came from. It was the height of the Dust Bowl, and the heat that year was a killer. Weeks over 100, the wells running low, the crops burning in the field. Her husband was away chasing work that mostly wasn't there, and she had 7 children and a house that turned to an oven by 10 in the morning. There was no money for extra ice, let alone anything more. So she did what her own mother had done, and she built the family's whole day around the heat. The pre-dawn baking, the shaded shut-up house, the cool cellar by day, the porch by night, the wet sheets in the doorways. Not one of those things cost $1, and together they carried 7 children through a summer that put grown men in the ground. She was not being frugal that July. She was keeping her children alive with nothing but knowledge, and the knowledge held. Number 8. She ran the errands and the town trips at dawn. Anything that meant leaving the cool house, the market, the well, the visiting, got done in the cool of early morning, never the blistering afternoon. She batched it all into one cool-hour trip and was home before the heat came down. Della did her walking and her trading by 8 and spent the furnace hours in the shade, not avoiding the day, spending the free cool hours on the work and the paid-for heat on nothing. Number 7. She let the breeze do the work with cross-ventilation. She read the wind and opened the house to it, windows on opposite sides thrown open together so the air ran straight through and carried the heat out with it. A house opened front to back to a moving breeze cools itself for free. Della knew which windows to open for the evening wind off the plains, and the house emptied its heat through them every night. Not guesswork, aiming the free wind straight through the house like a current. Number 6. She saved the ice melt and wasted no cold. Even the water melting off the ice block had a job. She caught it and used it to cool a drink, to dampen a cloth, to chill the milk crock, because that cold had been paid for and would not be poured down the drain. Nothing cold was ever wasted in that house while the summer raged. Della's children knew the melt pan under the icebox was never just thrown out, not penny pinching, refusing to let a single degree of purchased cold go to waste. Number 5. She kept the lamps low and the heat with them. Every flame and every bulb threw heat, so in summer she burned as little as she could, early to bed, up with the sun, 1 lamp instead of 3. Less light meant less heat, meant less to fight. The same holds today, where old bulbs throw 90% of their energy off as heat. Della's summer evenings were dim and early, the house cooling in the dark, not sitting in the gloom, cutting every small source of heat the house didn't need. Number 4. She parked the family at the free cool places. On the very worst days, she took the children where the cool was free. The shaded park, the creek, the library, the cool stone church. Why pay to cool a house all afternoon when the town gave you cool rooms for nothing? Della walked her brood to the creek on 100-degree days and let the water and the shade do what no icebox could, not going out to spend, going where the coolness cost nothing at all. Number 3. She made the whole street cooler together. Cooling was a shared effort on her block. Neighbors shared the Iceman's delivery to split the cost, pooled the garden harvest for canning days, and traded the coolest cellar and the shadiest porch freely among them. What one family lacked, another had, and the heat was easier borne together. Della's canning bees and shared ice runs cut every family's summer cost at once. Not charity. A whole street beating the heat cheaper together than any one house could alone. Number 2. She wanted less, so the heat cost her less. Underneath all of it sat the plainest discipline of the age. She did not crave the cold house or the cold drink on demand, so she was never a slave to the cost of them. A woman content with a shaded room and a cool cellar cannot be sold an expensive summer. Della found her comfort in the free things, the night air, the well water, the shade, and needed nothing she had to pay a company for. Not deprivation, the quiet freedom of a summer that owed no one anything. Number 1. She lived by the clock of the sun, not the thermostat. Here is the habit Della repeated every single day, and it is the sum of all the rest. She did not set a temperature and pay a machine to hold it. She moved her whole life to match the heat, cool work at the cool hours, the shaded house sealed against the noon, the cellar and the coolest room by day, the whole house and every bed thrown open to the free cold of the night. Cooling now runs up to half the summer electric bill because we do the exact opposite. We hold one temperature around the clock and pay for every degree, day and night, occupied room and empty one alike. Della paid for none of it. She let the earth cool her food, the night cool her house, the well cool her water, and the shade cool her walls, and she simply arranged her day so the free cool was always doing the work. The machine holds the heat at bay for money. Della sidestepped it for nothing by living in step with the sun instead of against it. That was the whole secret, not a trick at all. A way of moving through a hot day that never once sent a bill. None of this required money, a machine, or a single dollar Della did not already have. It required attention, the willingness to read the heat and move with it instead of paying to pretend it away. The mothers who cooled their families through the Dust Bowl summers understood something we forgot the moment central air arrived. Comfort you pay for by the hour is not the same as comfort you arrange for free. The ability to freeze a house to 68 in July is worthless beside knowing how to catch the night air, hoard it through the day, and let the earth do your cooling. Della Rourke never had an air conditioner in her life, and she carried 7 children through summers that would flatten most of us, spending almost nothing to do it. On her street, in that heat, she was not the exception. She was the rule. They were never the ones who suffered the summer. We are the ones who forgot how to live with it for free.